The rain in this city doesn't wash the streets clean, it just makes the grime slicker. I stepped into the room, and the air tasted like copper and expensive rosin. No hello, no pleasantries, just the hollow thud of the door closing behind me and the rhythmic flash of blue police lights cutting through the blinds. The body was slumped over a grand piano, limbs arranged with a grotesque precision, like notes on a staff that shouldn't exist. The victim was Julian Foster, a prodigy cellist whose hands were insured for more than my life serves to be worth in a century. But insurance doesn't cover what happened here. His throat wasn't just cut, it was positioned, angled to bleed onto the ivory keys in a specific pattern. This is case 07, the Maestro of Screams. I'm the guy who writes the report the police are too scared to file. It was October 14th, 2 a.m. at the penthouse suite of the Skylark Towers. The address screamed old money, but the smell inside screamed slaughter. Isabella Bennett was the one who hired me. She sat in the corner of my office 3 hours earlier, wrapped in a trench coat that cost more than my car. She didn't cry. Women like Isabella don't cry. They calculate. She had eyes like shattered glass and a checkbook that promised to make my landlord stop calling for a few months. They say it was a robbery, Mr. Gemini, she whispered, her voice trembling with a controlled frequency. But nothing was taken. Julian was tuned. She slid a photo across my desk. It showed Foster's body, but it was the look in her eyes that sold me. She wasn't looking for justice. She was looking for an exorcism. She smelled of rain and fear, a perfume I know too well. I arrived at the scene before the coroner could bag him. The place was a shrine to acoustics. Soundproofing panels on the walls, velvet curtains. The first thing I noticed wasn't the blood, but the silence. It was heavy, manufactured. The local law, led by Detective Maverick Rivera, was already botching the perimeter. Rivera thinks with his badge, not his gut. He saw a break-in. I saw a stage. I crouched next to Julian. The killer hadn't just murdered him. He had tightened the strings of the cello around the victim's neck using a luthier's knot. A tuning fork lay next to the body, stamped with a frequency that doesn't belong in any standard orchestra. 432 Hertz, the Verdi A. A frequency obsessed over by conspiracy theorists and sonic purists. This wasn't a crime of passion, and it wasn't a robbery. It was a performance. I looked at the blood spatter. It was too neat. Someone had conducted this death. I lit a cigarette, ignoring Rivera's protest. The smoke curled up toward the ceiling, searching for an exit that wasn't there. My methodology is simple. I don't look for the weapon. I look for the motive in the shadows. The police look at the what and the when. I look at the why that hides under the floorboards. You want the truth? You have to be willing to get your hands dirty in the silence that follows the scream. That's where I work, in the dissonance. Rivera tried to push me out, claiming I was contaminating the scene. I told him the scene was contaminated the moment Julian Foster decided to play God with sound. I retreated to my car, unscrewing the cap of the cheap bourbon I keep in the glove box. It burned going down, a necessary fire to fight the cold reality of the night. I didn't buy Isabella Bennett's concerned lover act entirely. Everyone is a performer in this town. I needed to see who else was in the orchestra. The police report mentioned a rival, Elias Wright. I found Wright at a dive bar called The Blue Note, nursing a gin and tonic and looking too smug for a man whose competitor just died. Wright was a violinist with nimble fingers and a tongue sharper than a bow. Julian? He laughed, the sound brittle. Julian was obsessed. He thought he could find the God frequency. He wasn't playing music anymore. He was trying to tear the fabric of reality. I pressed him. Hard. I slammed his hand onto the sticky table. The tuning fork right. 432. Hertz. Why? He paled. That's Theodore Campbell's signature. The old conductor. He was kicked out of the conservatory for his experiments. He believed that pain creates the purest resonance. That was the crack in the facade. The physical evidence, the specific knot, the tuning fork, it all pointed away from a simple crime and toward a twisted philosophy. The police ignored the tuning fork as debris. To me, it was the smoking gun. It wasn't about the music. It was about control. I drove to the abandoned opera house on the edge of the East River, where Campbell was rumored to squat. The place was a rotting carcass of velvet and gold leaf. The psychology of a man like Campbell is built on a foundation of narcissism and despair. He didn't kill for money. He killed because he believed he was creating art. He saw Julian not as a human, but as an instrument that needed to be broken to produce the right sound. I found Campbell on the main stage, surrounded by mannequins arranged as an audience. He was holding a baton, conducting an invisible orchestra. "You're late for the finale," he whispered. His voice echoed in the empty hall. He lunged at me, not with a gun, but with a sharpened conductor's baton. It was a clumsy, desperate attack. I sidestepped, the bourbon slowing my reflexes just enough to make it close. I felt the wind of the steel pass my cheek. I landed a right hook to his jaw, sending him crashing into the orchestra pit. The illusion shattered. Up close, Campbell wasn't a maestro. He was just a sad, broken old man, terrified of silence. He had killed Julian because Julian had threatened to expose his acoustic experiments, torture masked as musical theory. The motivation was the oldest one in the book, fear of irrelevance, dressed up in a tuxedo. Truth in this city isn't a shining light. It's a dirty penny you find in a gutter. It doesn't buy you anything, and it leaves a metallic taste in your mouth. Campbell was the villain, yes, but the city that drove him to madness? That's still out there, tuning its instruments. The police arrived 10 minutes after I dragged Campbell out of the pit. Rivera looked at the old man, then at me, and spat on the ground. He didn't say thank you. They never do. They cuffed Campbell, who was muttering about the perfect crescendo. The case was closed, statistically speaking. But for me, the file never really shuts. Isabella Bennett met me at my office the next morning. She handed me an envelope thick with cash. When I told her it was Campbell, her face didn't change. She knew. Deep down, she knew Julian's obsession had led him to the old man. "Thank you for the clarity," she said, her voice devoid of the tremor she had yesterday. She walked out, her heels clicking a rhythm that sounded suspiciously like goodbye. Technically, the modus operandi was ritualistic. Campbell was trying to replicate an archaic, forbidden acoustic theory where the human vocal cords, under extreme duress, hit a frequency that matches the resonant tone of the room. It's the kind of pseudoscience that gets people locked up in asylums, or in this case, gets them life in prison. It's a classic hard-boiled tragedy. High intellect corrupted by a complete lack of empathy. Julian Foster was a victim of his own ambition, lured by a mentor who had lost his mind. This case leaves a scar, not on my face, but on the way I hear things. Every time I hear a violin now, I wonder if the strings are gut or steel, and I think about the tension required to make them sing. The check cleared, paying for the bourbon and the rent, but the silence in my office feels heavier now. The city is still sick. I just treated one symptom, and here we are, you and I. I'm telling you this not because I want your pity, but because the darkness is too heavy to carry alone. Telling this story is like draining a wound. It's messy, it hurts, but it keeps the infection from spreading to the heart. I'm breaking the fourth wall because the walls in this office are closing in. You get the story, the thrill, the safety of your headphones. I get the hangover and the memory of a dead cellist. The phone is going to ring again. It always does. There's another envelope sliding under the door right now, catching on the uneven floorboards. Another desperate soul, another lie, another paycheck. So, here is the deal. To keep this office open and to ensure I can keep buying the cheap stuff that burns the memories away, I need you. Subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment. Tell me who you think is guilty in your own life. Share this with someone who thinks the world is fair, so we can wake them up. The night is long, and my glass is empty. That's enough for now. Kill the lights. Watch your back on the way out.